Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Civic Action Podcast. My name is Mauricio Acosta, and I'm the founder and executive director of Virtutem Populo. So Virtutem Populo is a student-led 501c3 nonprofit that works to promote civic engagement and community involvement among youth in Miami-Dade County. Before I introduce Hector again, I want to give a special thanks to Mayor Manny Sid of the town of Miami Lakes for letting us use his awesome studio. What do you think of the studio, Hector? I mean, it's pretty neat, the painting.
It's impressive, right?
Yeah, I actually think this was painted by like a school counselor or a teacher that Mayor Sid commissioned.
Miss Gajano. I work with Miss Gajano.
Oh, do you? Look at that. So, yeah, I think she did a great job. And I also want to give a special thanks to the Miami Lakes Chamber of Commerce for all their help in producing the podcast. So, Hector, thank you for coming on. Just, a quick summary for our audience. Hector is the chair of the Town of Miami Lakes Education Advisory Board, and he's a school social worker for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. So thank you so much for coming on, Hector.
So thank you so much, Maurice. It is truly an honor. It's a blessing. I am humbled by your invitation. I've noticed that in your last, I believe it's like 7 podcasts that you've done. You've had some very influential people. You had the superintendent of schools. You had the president of Miami-Dade College, the CEO of the Children's Trust. I mean, I think you've had some very, very influential people, and I appreciate that you would invite me. It is quite humbling.
Absolutely. And now you're one of those influential people added to the list of our Civic Action Podcast guests.
Thank you, Maurice.
So I guess just to kick off the story, tell our audience a little bit about yourself. You have an incredible story. So if you feel comfortable, we'd love to hear a little bit of it.
Sure. So I was born in Cuba, and at the age of 10, I was blessed, that my uncle decided to go over in the Mariel boat lift and brought my family over. We were the only, my mom, my dad, and my sister were the only ones left in Cuba, right, from my maternal side of the family. So I came over here at age 10, went through middle school, went to Hialeah Senior High School. I know we're rivals.
Yes, I'm a proud Trojan. Yes.
I think it's, once a T-bread, always a T-bread. And then I went on to FIU, got my bachelor's degree in social work, then completed my master's degree at Barry University. And like you said earlier, I'm a school social worker. I've been working for the county for 28 years. Actually, I'm completing my 28th year. This year, I have 4 schools that are assigned to me. 2 within the town of Miami Lakes, being Barbara Goldman Senior High, Miami Lakes Middle School. And then I have 2 schools, one in Hialeah and one like in the PSN area.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. And I know as chair of the Education Advisory Board here in the town, you guys lead a lot of different activities when it comes to our schools. You guys have, you work with Barbara Goldman, Miami Lakes Education Center, Hialeah Miami Lakes Middle School, Miami Lakes K-8 Center, Bob Graham, Miami Lakes Middle School, as well as Our Lady of the Lakes. So tell us a little bit about those programs that you guys do. How do you try to incorporate the student voice, and how do you try to help students in their academic journey?
Sure. So when it comes to schools, we like to assess, the needs, the programs that the schools have, how available are they, are they inclusive, how many kids do they benefit, right? So we meet quarterly with principals. They come to our meetings. We have monthly meetings. They tell us about their schools, right? They tell us about all the wonderful things, the programs that they have. But throughout all that, we always, we have teachers who are part of the EAB. We have an administrator who's a part of the EAB. At those quarterly meetings, we had not only our local school principals, but we had region administrators, district administrators that would come. But we always felt that we were missing something, right? It was the voice of the students. And at that point, about a year and a half ago, we came together. We decided that it was time. It was time to bring in a student advisor, sort of, somebody who would engage the leaders at the schools and come back and report from the student point of view. So the council approved us having the student advisor in the board, and we opened it up. And guess what? You were the chosen one, so you are like our student liaison, student advisor in the Education Advisory Board. So that's more or less what we do. Additionally, we have other programs. We normally do we fund the vocabulary classes in the two K8s in the middle school. Um, there's certain clubs that deal with technology that we help fund for their supplies and their competitions. Additionally, we also have a program with the library, right? They do certain events every month, and the Educational Advisory Board sponsors the cost of those programs. And finally, we also do um, we do Imagination Library. It's really more geared towards younger kids, 0 to age 5, and what they do is they get books sent mailed to the house. Additionally, and we started this actually we just completed our second event, which was um, so we basically did like an awards ceremony, right? It's the Excellence Awards, and we recognized the Teacher of the Year and students from all of our high schools in the town.
That's incredible work, and I'm so proud to serve alongside you and the rest of the board in completing all of these programs and interacting with the schools of our town. And I'm glad that you guys did add a student representative. That was a movement I was very vocal about. It's one of the principles that we have at Virtutem Populo of promoting student engagement and student involvement in government. I actually have a meeting today right after this podcast with a school board member from Monroe County about trying to expand the student advisor position across the state. So I think the town they started it off really with adding that position to our town's education committee.
And you bring a value. I mean,
Thank you.
You're wiser beyond your years, and sometimes you keep us in check, right? Sometimes we think this is the right thing to do, and then you come and you give your opinion from a student point of view, and maybe it's not necessarily what we intended to do. So it's always great to have that point of view.
Thank you, Hector. And one thing I wanted to touch base on, I know you had cancer when you were younger,
Right.
and that probably was very difficult for you. How did that kind of shape your life today? I mean, you live a very much, I would say, service-oriented life. I always see you volunteering at so many different events, whether it be through the town or with your church or with giving gators. I know when natural disasters strike, you're one of the first on the scene to act. Food drives,
Right.
or during the school year you participate in school supply drives and toy drives to give back to those in need. So tell me a little bit about that. Do you think that that traumatic event in your life
Right.
made an impact?
So Maritz, right before I turned 13, I was diagnosed with leukemia, right? And obviously that is very impactful. I was absent a lot from school. I was often in hospitals. So I missed out a lot. I was never very active in the clubs. I was not able to participate in many of those things that normal teenagers do, right? But I became very close to the hospital family, right? We created our own family. So what I started doing is volunteering at the hospital. Whenever a child was diagnosed with leukemia or any sort of cancer, I would go and meet with the family and talk to them about it, what to expect, and then I would follow up with the kids. I did that, through the end of my high school years, the beginning of the college years. I would volunteer at camps for kids who had terminal illnesses, cancer, cystic fibrosis, renal failure. So I did that. Once I graduated from from college, I went to work for a public school system, and it's very impactful. While I was there, I became very involved with their PTAs. I'm also the president of the Barbara Goldman Booster Club, right? So I've always tried to give back in any which way possible. Ultimately, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was invited to join the Education Advisory Board. I was appointed by, at that time, Councilman Jeffrey Rodriguez, and I continue to give back. Now, I will say this, like you mentioned giving gators, right? That's such a wonderful organization. They're so active in the community. They're always doing something, and they've allowed me to expand my ability to do the work. And I think it's so satisfying, when you provide service. Finally, you touch the church, right? So faith is very important to me. Clearly through all the traumatic events I went through with my life, I became very closer to God, right? So I've stayed very active within my church. I go to Mother of Our Redeemer. There's a men's ministry and a men's ministry that I've stayed very involved with. And it's always about giving back, Uh, again, not trying to impose religious views on anybody. I think Jesus said he came to serve, not to be served. I think that is our purpose, right? So if we serve, I think we get so much more than just being served.
Yeah, and I really respect and value that side of you of service, that service mindset. But another thing I value of you is your interest in government, which is something that we want to get our students to understand as well. I mean, I see you all the time attending our council meetings, our budget hearings, our watching committee meetings. Why do you think it's important as a citizen, not only of Miami Lakes, but of the state of Florida and of the United States? We have these American flags in front of us, but why do you think it's important to stay up to date with what government is doing? Do you think that's only something for adults to do, or do you think maybe some of our students watching should also, try to keep up to date with what their local government and county government and state government is doing?
No, absolutely. You should always be aware of what's going on, right? There are certain policies, there are certain rules or laws that council at the local level is passing that impacts everybody's lives, right? So I personally like to be aware, even when I cannot make the meeting personally. I watch it online. There's many ways through YouTube,
Facebook,
right?
All
Exactly.
the ways, exactly.
There's so many ways to stay in contact. And as far as the students, listen, I remember what I met you, right? So you're still a little skinny kid for me, you know what I'm saying? But you used to be at Miami Lakes, man. I remember with your little
Yes.
iPad doing morning announcements. But the first time you talked to me, you approached me outside of school wanting to debate me and argue with me as to why Miami Lakes was not getting the same amount of funding that Barbara Goldman was getting, right? So I still remember our conversations, and I think it's so great that you were engaged. I saw the wonderful things that you and the Law Studies class at Miami Lakes Middle did.
No,
right?
Miss De Yarza.
Miss De Yarza,
She's
right?
amazing, yes.
She is amazing. So I think, listen, you are the future, right? And if you're not involved in the community, don't let people make all the decisions without getting your input. So I do encourage all the students to become involved with their student governments at school, with their local governments, and if they can go and interact with state. I know that's more difficult, but definitely you could interact with local government.
100%. And just some stories I'd like to share, some but when it comes to interacting at the state level, Matthew Webb, one of our team members at Virtutem Populo, he actually attended the Boys State event in partnership with American Legion. So there's so many ways for youth to get involved. Matthew's actually in the studio with us today. You met him earlier. Another student, Juliana Correa.
Yeah.
She's amazing. I mean, we went to an event together where she was unveiling her student project that Virtutem Populo helped her organize the little ribbon cutting for students with Down syndrome and kids with Down syndrome.
Right.
I mean, you see these stories in our community of, middle and high school students, going to these state conferences or doing these local passion projects. And Juliana got a grant from the Miami Lakes Town Foundation and a donation from Fred Senra with the Miami Lakes Auto Mall to do that project. So I think you hit it on the head when you said, how important it is for students to be involved in community service and giving back. And another thing that you mentioned that I wanted to share a fun fact about was when you talked about watching government meetings and having the opportunity to watch it online. Our last guest was school board member Luisa Santos, and we chatted a little bit about, how we can make meetings more accessible by live streaming them. And the topic came up, which is the fact that Miami Lakes was one of the first towns in the United States to start allowing remote public comments via Zoom by residents in the community, and to start live streaming and their meetings and allowing the public to give remote public comments.
Sure.
So I definitely think the way is being led by many things in Miami, and I think there's so much opportunity for students to get involved. So my next question is, what are some of the opportunities that you're aware of that you want to share with some of the students that are listening to us? I know you're very involved with Giving Gators, but what can a student who's listening who is going, I want to get more involved. I want to be like Matthew. I want to be like Juliana. I want to, attend these events and help our community. What are some ways that you're aware of that they can, get involved with Miami Lakes and Hialeah and Miami-Dade County to serve?
So I know you young people are very much into social media, right? And I think that's one wonderful way to communicate with our youth. Obviously, I think schools. Look, if you start in your school, there's always something you could do for your school. Get involved with your PTAs, ESAC meetings. They have student representatives, right?
Yep.
Student government. When you get to high schools, there's a lot of service-oriented clubs, right? You have a Key Club, you have the National Honor Society.
Interact Club, so
Right,
many clubs.
Sure, absolutely. There's so many clubs. And if you want to look further past that, like you say, Giving Gators, they're always posting about events that they're doing in the town. The town itself has events, the Youth Activities Task Force.
Absolutely.
You know how many kids are involved in that committee in the town? So you can take it as far as you want. Go visit a local hospital. Go visit, there's kids who volunteers in parks. There's programs for kids in parks. There's so many ways to volunteer. It's really up to you. And I will say, I do encourage anybody who may be listening. Again, like I said earlier, there's so much satisfaction in giving. We're only as strong as the weakest member of our community. It's that program that Miss Correa did. Think about it. Kids with Down syndrome. That was such an act of love. If
an
you think
amazing
about it,
program.
Right? So it's a long-lasting program, something that these kids will have for years to come. So that's very meaningful. So I do encourage all the kids to stay involved. But besides, let me give you a little hint. About university, since you're going to be looking about that. It's great to have great grades, but university wants to see you as a whole person, right? How active are you? How active are you in your community? Where there's clubs, athletics. They want the complete package. So this is the time to do it. Get involved, volunteer, and it's so rewarding.
Yeah, I agree. And just a little backstory about Juliana's project for our listeners who don't really know exactly what she did. She bought these books that were audio recordable, and she gave them out to members of the community to record their voice reading the book, so that students with autism, as they flip the pages, it would be the voice of whoever recorded it reading it to them. So I know Mayor Sid did one, you did a book, I did a book, Lynn Matos did a book, all of these, a firefighter did a book, Officer Robin Amador, who's an officer in Miami Lakes, did the book. All of these community leaders read the book, and they placed them at Gigi's Playhouse, which is a center, a business, an organization that's dedicated to providing services to students with Down syndrome. And now they have a library there with the very same books that we read, and anybody can pick them up and flip through pages, and they'll hear you recording it, me recording it.
Right. And listen, I had the ugly duckling who was just reading it.
Yes.
You had to sing.
I had to sing. What was my book? It was what's the song about the star?
Twinkle, twinkle.
Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and other favorite tunes or something.
Yeah.
So I had to sing the book, and it was great. But Juliana, if you're listening, thank you for all the work you do for the community, and we appreciate it 1,000%. Another quick thing that I wanted to ask you about, and I like asking this to every guest that we get. I try to ask them this. It's, if you could go back, let's say 30 years, 40 years, and look at Hector in high school and college, what's one piece of advice that you would give young Hector, knowing everything that you know now?
So that's like the magic quest, right? In social work, we ask you to look forward 20, 30 years. Where do you see yourself in 20, 30 years? But let's go back. So like I said, listen, I feel that I am where God wanted me to be, right? I'm exactly where he wanted me to be, nowhere else. So would I change anything about me? Probably not. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be able to be sitting here and talking to you. You know how many kids do not survive cancer? You know what I'm saying? So I am here. So, but I will say this, life is full of obstacles, and life is full of chapters. You close a chapter, you open a chapter. So my advice to kids is to get involved now, make a difference in your community. Because what you don't want to go is go through life and then and I believe you had a past guest that talked about regrets, right? Don't go with regrets. I've had a very full life. My ability to stay involved, to volunteer, to give back has allowed me to meet so many wonderful people, including you. By the way, like I said, it's weird to say this, but I look up to you, and you're way younger than me, right? You're younger than my kids, but stay involved. That's what I would have said to myself 40 years ago. I think I did what I wanted to do. I never gave up. I grew in my faith, and I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in life.
That's good. I think it's great to feel comfortable where you're at.
That's it.
And I know that you're gonna continue doing great things, and I think our viewers can even follow you on social media. I think your Instagram is Hector Abad Cares, and your Facebook page too, so they can keep in touch there. And then the last thing I just want to quickly talk about, brush over as we're starting to close off to finish off this episode, is college.
Right.
For many of our viewers, that's a concern. For some, maybe they won't be able to go to college. Hopefully most can. But I think one day you mentioned to me how you also had the opportunity, or you could have gone out of state. You were accepted to some universities.
Right.
You ended up having to stay at FIU. I mean, talk about that experience. And also, a lot of Hispanic parents, they don't want their kids to go away because they want them to go to FIU or MDC so they could stay local. Do you think there's a benefit to going away for college? And what was your experience like?
Right. So let me start by saying that I'm the first member of my family to actually graduate from college, right? So you're right. When I was going to graduate from high school, I applied to Northeastern University in Boston. And I was all set to go. I was so excited. I'm going away. And all of a sudden, I'm watching the news. I still remember Channel 10 News. And there's somebody standing, a weather reporter standing in front of Northeastern University. And like snow was up to their waist. It was like a blizzard or something like that. And I became scared. I said, I've never seen snow. There's no way. That's not what it is. So I decided to stay locally. But I will say this to you. My daughter went away to college, my youngest. She's in Gainesville right now. Right now, it's a little bit of a stressful time. There's a storm heading that way. But it's such a wonderful experience. She becomes so much more independent.
Absolutely.
So if you have that opportunity, do it. Give yourself a chance. Just don't regret it. I do sometimes wonder, had I gone to Northeastern, how life would have been different for me, right? I would have met different people. I might never have met you. But that's why I'm saying I am where God wanted me to be. But if you have the opportunity, do it. And as far as colleges, look, there's so many opportunities out there. There's so many scholarships. Just look for it. Stay in touch with your CAP advisor. Go to your counselor. There's scholarships for people who wear glasses, who are left-handed, for people who drink Coke. It's so many scholarships. Just go out and seek. Do your research, and you'll be fine.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been Hector Abad on the Civic Action Podcast. You can follow Hector at Hector Abad Cares. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
On Instagram and Facebook. And you can follow us at Virtutem Populo. It's at Virtutem_Populo on Instagram and Twitter, or X. And at Virtutem Populo Inc. on Facebook. You can also go on our website, www.virtutempopulo.org. If you're a student going, hey, I want to get more involved, I want to learn more about Virtutem Populo, I want to volunteer, then reach out to us. We have a place for you. Thank you so much for coming on, Hector. And
thank you so much, Maritz.
Thank you. And check out the next episode. Follow us on our YouTube page as well. Post notifications because we're coming back with a new guest very soon.